at Huntington Field to talk about Here We Go Brownies wine and all the other amazing wines at Lorella Vineyards.
Yeah, I just want to tell all of you guys, it's harvest season right now. We just started with some of the whites, and reds will be coming in next. Stop out at the winery, all the wineries out in Northeast Ohio, for to check out all the harvest and what we're doing out there. Really good time right now.
Here we go, brownies. Here we go.
Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Woo, woo.
Stand up. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. The kids cardiac. Catch me in the Muni where the party at. Dog pound, turn up with the elf up on my starter cap. Brought him back. Boy, we from the land and we proud of that. Louder man, front to the back. Here we go, I got him shouting that. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Stand up. Here we go, brownies. Let's go. Game on the line, Joe Thomas, I promise. Jim Brown running through opponents, how I got this. I return like Josh Cripps. Hand for the mini, got the dog pound jumping. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Stand up. Here we go, brownies. Let's go.
Cleveland, this is for you. This is for you.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. If you are just joining us, I apologize for the technical issue right off the start. Normally, we play that intro and then right into maybe a sponsor video, and I did them backwards. So with that, we're going to quick word real quick from our friends over at Lorella Vineyards so they get the proper spot.
Here we go, Brownies Nations. We are here with Larry Lorello at Huntington Field to talk about Here We Go Brownies wine and all the other amazing wines at Lorella Vineyards.
Yeah, I just want to tell all of you guys, it's harvest season right now. We just started with some of the whites, and reds will be coming in next. Stop out at the winery, all the wineries out in Northeast Ohio, for to check out all the harvest and what we're doing out there. Really good time right now.
Here we go, brownies. Here we go.
Here we go.
Woof, 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 woof.
All right, it's a live show. Sometimes we mess up. But Dustin, how are you? How's it going?
Good, good. I was just talking about that the other day when they were like, "Is your show live?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, well, what happens? I'm like, "You mean if a cat shows up on the screen, a dog barks, or power outages?" Yeah, we deal with that. That's because it's a live show. That's what we do. Things are good. Tomorrow, is it tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow, the start of Guardians baseball. They're on the road. Cavs were kicking some butt last night against, I think they were playing Orlando, I believe. Last night they won. They've won 4 in a row. Kind of getting back to, where they need to be. They're in that fourth spot. So more importantly, it's consistently above 45 or 50 degrees, which puts me in a really great mood because I like warmth. I think this winter almost broke me, so I'm excited for some warm weather in Cleveland. And but yeah, baseball season will be here. Cavs are making their playoff push, and the Browns are trying to build a watchable football team.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of fun, outside of, I think obviously like in the thick of football season, you've got college, you've got NFL, like that. To me, that is my favorite. Like right when fall kicks off, that is my favorite time of like the sports season. But I think this is kind of a close second where you've got the Cavs or NBA that's in full swing, looking at teams to make a playoff push.
Oh, March Madness too. Yeah.
You've got golf right around the corner, already happening. Masters knocking on the door. Baseball starting tomorrow, and for your football loving people, we've got the NFL draft upcoming. That's a lot of fun. So, we have kind of survived this dead period post free agency leading up to the draft where there's like nothing to talk about and you're just exhausting yourself with like which tackle to take at 6. And you can only have that conversation so many times. So this is fun where you're getting a lot of sports thrown at you at once. So this is kind of a fun time, but, thanks everybody for tuning in. We're with all of that to say, we're going to talk more tonight.
Yeah, and as I say, I'm going to give a little breaking news. I didn't even tell Allie this before we came on, but literally in the last couple hours, Here We Go Brownies and Kennel 2 will be live from the draft from Ditto's company right across from where everything's happening. But we'll be live from the draft Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So look for some cool coverage coming from the draft 2 hours away. I mean, the hospitable Pittsburgh Steelers have let us in, Allie. What's happening with the world? We're allowed to go there. We're allowed to bring the bus. We're allowed to go live from the show, but 2 hours away. So all you Browns fans that are, can make the drive, it's 2 hours. It's not that far to go enjoy. Allie's been to a draft. She understands. It's really, they've made it more centric for fans now. It's free. It's really, other than the Super Bowl, Allie, it's like the second biggest thing the NFL really puts on every year.
Huge fan experience.
Yeah.
When I went, I know you've been to several, but when I went, it was cold, it sucked, it was nasty, the weather wasn't fun, but from an NFL product, what the NFL puts on, it's pretty cool. They've got a ton of, kid-friendly things where you can have, test your skills. Obviously, you have pretty close access to some of these players. You never know who you're going to see. And of course, the actual production of the draft is really cool. And to have it, each fan base have their own section. It's cool. It's a lot of fun. They do a good job. So if you have the opportunity to go, certainly encourage you. Obviously, got to go to Pittsburgh. Sucks this year, but I think you'll survive.
Yeah. The year after, I thought that was kind of cool too, because the year after the NFL draft this year in Pittsburgh, I'm sure you've been there, Allie, but it's in Washington, D.C. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a really unique experience to go take in all the things that DC has to offer from museums and stuff. So that'll be a really cool experience to take it in from DC. So
totally. DC is great. All right, so we're going to get into it tonight. We're going to talk to you about what else? The NFL draft. That's what we're here to do at this current juncture. Not a ton to talk about from a Browns news perspective. Dustin, you touched on this right before we went on. There's some language changes in Myles Garrett's contract. We'll talk about that in like 3 seconds. But again, ton to talk about really in the past week from a Browns standpoint. And that's not always the worst thing at all, right?
Especially sometimes it's good. Quiet sometimes is good. Not for the sake of podcasting, sure, but for the sake of the Cleveland Browns and sports in general, it's a good thing. But from a podcasting standpoint, then we're kind of like, all right, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah. All right, so let's kick it off. We will have David join us here in a few moments. We'll kick it off with the draft conversation. But let's start with Myles Garrett. Dustin, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, so really the language, it's basically kind of pushing out. It's a good thing for Myles Garrett. It's a good thing for the Cleveland Browns. And Andrew Berry's doing what Andrew Berry does, right? It gives the Browns more flexibility in the cap space to obviously work other contracts and get better players into the building for the Cleveland Browns. So it's just Andrew Berry doing what Andrew Berry basically does, I guess is the best way to describe the language change.
Yeah. So basically what it is I'll just read it from you. This is Field Yates from ESPN. They've not restructured. I want to be careful with my language, but they've modified the language in the contract. Right. So Garrett's contract previously called for his option bonuses in 26, 27, and 28 to be exercised by the 15th day of the league year. In amended terms, the date has been pushed to 7 days before the regular season each year. The payment of the option bonuses was also modified in a way that has benefit to Myles Garrett. Additionally, Garrett has $8 million of his base salary in 2029 and 2030 moved into roster bonuses earlier in each league year. So you mentioned it, and really the prime reason here is just some flexibility with the cap space. We know that there has been additional cap awarded throughout the NFL. So each side benefits with this. No huge surprise here. I don't think that this is an indication that they're going to make a move with Myles or anything like that. No. I think that just some flexibility as we go into the draft and potentially as we add a couple of pieces here and there along the lines of free agency or even any trades, anything like that. So it's just more of a Andrew Berry cap manipulation type of thing, adding some additional flexibility.
Yeah, and again, based on some of what we have to deal with, some of our dead cap and just overall with Deshaun Watson's contract, this just gives the Browns some extra leverage for signing our, obviously, rookies. I mean, we have a lot of draft picks, right? So we have a lot of rookies we got to sign. And then anybody that really that comes available, right? We don't know if the Browns are going to trade, here in the next few days, weeks, when it comes to wide receiver. So there's probably some reasons behind this. And they probably went to Myles and his camp and said, hey, look, we're looking at maybe doing this or that. can you help us out? Right. It's one of those things. And by the way, it's going to benefit you in the long run because it's going to make the team better based on what we're trying to do.
Just want to highlight this. This is actually very significant. So James saw that the Browns were not attendance at Ty Simpson's pro day. Hope this means that we're rocking with Shador. So this is significant for one very specific reason. If you don't know, Todd Monken and Ty Simpson's dad are very, very close friends. Ty Simpson's dad is the coach at, was it Tennessee, like Martin or something like that. Anyways, some very close personal connections. And actually Ty Simpson has even said it would be a dream to play for Coach Monken, as he's very, held very highly in regard to that family, very, very close personal friend. So for him to not be in attendance, one, just from a personal standpoint is interesting, but two, also, I mean, from the indication that you just made, James, where, it looks like they're probably not going to have a ton of interest in Ty Simpson, which I think is probably for the best. I don't have personally a ton of interest in him either. I think if you are going to expand the quarterback room, there's probably a different way about it, but that's very interesting. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. All right, let's get into it. Let's bring David on. Before we do so, Dustin, we've got some really exciting news to share from our friends over at Primetime.
Yeah, guys. First and foremost, this Thursday, the GOAT, that's right, the GOAT himself, Lawrence Taylor, will be live on their eBay at 8:00 doing some amazing autograph live signatures. And then that's right, Great Northern Mall, Saturday, Sunday, all the Buckeyes are coming out. Go check them out on Saturday. They start at 2:30 and then Sunday at noon. That's right. Go get all those Buckeyes autographs. Great Northern Mall right here outside Cleveland, about 15, 20 minutes, but that's going to be a lot of fun. That's a lot of players. I've been around there when they did that down in Columbus. It's like organized chaos trying to get all those guys in there and get them all, especially on that Sunday. I mean, and our friend of the program, Hinsman, the center, obviously he's going to be there as well, doing a signing again.
If you're wondering, oh man, I need to get some really cool apparel to wear to that event, check out our friends over at Weebly, Ohio. You can, of course, get your official Here We Go Brownies podcast, hat, t-shirt, sweatshirt, of course. But you can also get some really great football, basketball, baseball designs. So if you've got a favorite team, maybe they can hook you up. So go check them out. With that, let's bring David on. Dr. David Ullery. This is the medical moment / football talk with Dr. David Ullery. Hey, David.
Hey, Allie. Hi, Dustin. How are you guys?
What's happening?
How are you? Good?
Good. Actually, what I was going to do, well, we'll see how it goes. I'm outside, so hopefully it's not too loud and my AirPods aren't causing that weird noise or my computer or whatever. So if it starts making, that's a motorcycle, sorry. If it starts making all that noise like it has in the past, let me know and I'll take my AirPods out because maybe they're the issue.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, I did not hear the motorcycle, so you must be doing all right. I don't think you heard it either, Allie, did you?
Nope. But as soon as we start hearing that, paper tear, that's what it sounds like. I'm coming for you, David. Yes, it's terrible. It's like it for whatever reason, it's like later on in the show. I don't know if the computer gets hot or something. I don't know.
That's probably it.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk draft. Before we do that, because the segment that I want to do is this or that NFL draft edition. I want to go through and kind of compare this year's draft or prospects to last year's draft prospects to kind of get a better understanding or a firmer grasp on really where do some of these players rank. So we'll do that. Before we do that, I want to talk about consuming draft content. Who are just your personal favorites on if you're, listening to, watching whatever draft content, who's your go-to person? Because I've got a guy that in my head, number one, anything he says, I'm listening to. Do you have that guy? And obviously, feel free to give him a shout out on this podcast. It's free advertising. Great. Give him a shout. Normally we don't like to do that. But I mean, for draft content at this current juncture, guys, I want to push as much as we can for our listeners to maybe have some additional resources.
Yeah. For me, I take some insight from Shefty when he is kind of giving, I feel like he's got a lot of, he's very well trusted. From in the industry, right? As you see when he's on a program and he's looking at his phone and he's getting text something, everybody just stops what they're doing. Adam, what's happening? Right? He's getting the intel. So I like to hear what he's hearing. And especially with the draft, he'll be like, well, I was at the draft and this is what I was hearing, right?
I just mean, I guess I'm asking, like, leading up to the draft. You have a guy, a draft guy. Adam Schefter's a reporter. Like, he's just going to give you the breakdown on what the contract was. And he's great at what he does, obviously, but like a specific draft guy.
I will tell you this, and it was interesting because I think he had some intel that he didn't share with us when he came on the bus. But Ian Rappaport is an interesting guy that really comes in with some interesting tells and gives some updates before the draft. And I like just his content, just because he also doesn't give it all away too.
All right,
So I just started listening to him last summer when I was actually building our fence outside. I think he's been around for a long time. He's been doing this for a long time, but for I think 20, 24 plus years, he's been doing just draft analysis. All he does is consume the draft. And every single day on his show, he announces how many days until the next draft. That's how bought in he is. It's a name everyone knows, but I think he's really kind of honed his product. And it's Todd McShay. He has been doing this like far and away more than anybody else has. And like, he has it down to a science. And he was down here in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. We didn't run into him. We were hoping we would, but he has such incredible insight, and he has the connections for doing it for so long that it really just comes naturally to him. And like, I'm envious of it, because I would love to be able to analyze people like he can. But the shows are a little long, and so it makes it hard to consume all of it, especially, when you're trying to, listen to other things, or when you're just, driving or whatever you got going on in your life. But he just knows his stuff. He and his partner are awesome. And, they did a breakdown every day for practice after the Senior Bowl, and really just kind of went in on who like they thought like stood out in a big performance. And they, talk about how the practices are really more important than the game when it comes to the Senior Bowl and evaluating these players, because that's where they're really going through the drills, going one-on-one, and the game is like not everyone plays. And so when it comes down to just like, if there's one person I'm going to pick to listen to for some draft intel, it's Todd McShay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's my go-to guy. I think when I think NFL draft, obviously you think like Mel Kiper, you think those guys, but modern day NFL draft gurus, if you will, I think there's two that do such a good job at what they do. And that one of them is Todd. He is, in my opinion, the best in terms of intel and just the product that he's putting out there. He was actually talking today, maybe it was yesterday's pod, I can't remember, about this website that he's creating, and just the data that you can get from that is kind of invaluable. And also it's Dane Brugler. Every year we go through the beast that he puts out, and he puts so much information regarding each prospect that's going to get drafted. It's incredible. I think those are the two guys. So if you haven't, take a listen to those guys. They're so smart. And I would encourage you to, if you're trying to consume NFL draft content for your Cleveland Browns, you're a diehard Browns fan, listen to draft guys that are not Browns fans. Go get true analysis on these prospects to be able to, one, just feel more confident when you're watching the draft. David, I'm starting to hear the paper. I'm starting to hear it. What's happening?
It's gone.
It's gone. All right. Well, he went on mute, but started to hear it. So that would just be my recommendation as you, if you're a draft nerd kind of like me, I'd get into it.
Yeah, and the one thing, Allie, I was going to add to that I've enjoyed that I used to not watch, but I kind of watch just because we've never solved this problem in 74 years of the Cleveland Browns, is watching John Gruden when he does these quarterbacks, when he brings them in, gets personal with them, breaks down film. I've actually found that very entertaining. Like, he'll be like, what's your cadence? What do you do on this play? That's kind of entertaining, because it really dives into the mindset behind some of these quarterbacks and who they are and what they are and what makes them tick. I've enjoyed that just because at the quarterback position, at least I've noticed that's been entertaining for me, what John Gruden does with these quarterbacks. I find that kind of insightful, because he just brings them in and just kind of just talks football with them and says, why do you think you're going to be a good quarterback in the NFL? I really enjoyed that. Like Will Howard last year when he brought him in, like I'm a big Will Howard fan, and I'm not even an Ohio State guy. And I enjoyed where I think he's got the moxie. Why is he going so late, And it was just interesting how he broke that down and compared to him like Josh Allen and some other guys. So I just think it's interesting what he does with the quarterback position. At least I thought it is entertaining for me.
Cool. I want to tell you about our friends over at Stadium Mustard, guys. If you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, you are doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste, pull up from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard rich in both taste and tradition. By the way, it's loved by millions, so be sure to head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. All right, let's get into this or that NFL Draft Edition. First, we're going to start at the Browns' positions of needs. And then we'll kind of expand to a lot of the draft prospects because, of course, there's more than one round in the NFL draft. With that in mind, I want to start by kind of a comparison of prospect to prospect, top prospect to prospect for this year, and then we'll reflect back on last year. So I'm going to give you guys two names. You tell me this one or that one, and obviously why, if you've got anything on that. David, I'll start with you. Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson?
Okay. I'm gonna go Carnell Tate. I think he has the best hands in the draft. I think he's got the best possession, just skills and ability, and route running. I know that I was gonna kind of, say, Tyson, there's been some rumblings about his hamstring injury, but I mean, Carnell Tate was injured last season too and missed some time. So it's not like either of them are immune completely to injuries, but I just think overall, top to bottom, Carnell Tate, one, he comes from, the Brian Hartline tree, the wide receiver university tree. And I think you have to trust that still until it's proven otherwise. But two, I think he just has better hands, better catch radius, and just overall is a better prospect from top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with Carnell Tate. He is my number one receiver in this draft. I think it is interesting, though, to really kind of have this conversation. If all things were equal, if both of these players were 100% healthy, I think this would be a really interesting conversation because Jordan Tyson brings a lot to the table. I think he's got a very high ceiling, but you just have a lot of concerns when it comes to the injury standpoint. So for that reason alone, I mean, Carnell Tate's my number one receiver. I've said that. I think also this is kind of a semi-deep receiver class. You can get a lot of value in the second round. So guys, if you're watching this and you're like, or if we're watching the draft and the Browns take, best available and then tackle at 24, you're like, well, what the hell are we going to do? There's still a lot of talent there. So for that, I've got Carnell Tate number one. His hands are elite. I really like what he brings to the table, and I think would benefit in what Todd Monken wants to do. So for me, it's Carnell Tate. What do you think, Dustin?
Yeah, it is interesting when you look at both these guys because you're right. Tyson's got that high ceiling, but the injuries, right? Those are kind of the injury bug and, soft tissue in the NFL, right? Is a real thing. But to your point, Tate would probably be a number one receiver on every other college football team in America if it wasn't for Smith, right? So I think we also have not got to see all of what he can be, and hopefully he can exploit that at the next level in the NFL. So for me, it would be Tate too, just because, I mean, what would he have done at Ohio State if Jeremiah Smith wasn't? It would be interesting to see what he would have done. I mean, he might have been even better.
Do we all agree that Carnell Tate's our number one receiver for all three of us in this pod?
For sure. Sure.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to kind of skip over some of the other guys like Mekhi Lemon and, Omar Cooper Jr. because I think for this conversation, for us, it's Carnell Tate is the number one on the big board for the Here We Go Brownies podcast draft. So my next question then is, as we reflect back to last year's draft, would you take, and I'll start with you, Dustin, are you Carnell Tate or are you Tet McMillan?
Probably still Carnell Tate, just because, I mean, again, the competition he goes against, right? And I don't think we've seen the ceiling. I don't think we've seen the ceiling on Carnell. And the reason I say that, I'm just going to double down. If Jeremiah Smith isn't there, how many more catches does he have? You know what I mean? All those things. So I'm there. So, I mean.
David, what do you got?
This is really hard. I think part of that, you can get into the nuance of, team need and what you actually like, what team is drafting who and for what position. But I mean, overall, just from a wide receiver prospect in terms of like NFL translation from college, I almost lean a little bit more towards Tet. I think he's more of a true wide receiver one. He's a little bit bigger. He's a bigger guy. He's got just that. He has that look. He's got that feel. He's got the route running. He's got the catching the ball at the high point. And I mean, he proved it in his rookie year with over 1,000 yards receiving. And I know it's hard we don't want to compare that necessarily because Tate has not played in the NFL yet. But I think a true wide receiver one prospect, I think I lean Tet with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think for that reason, I mean, he is a true receiver one. I don't know if I'm willing to say that Carnell Tate is going to ever be that. I think he could be. I just don't think when you look at Tet, like he's a clear number one receiver in the NFL. So, and again, just a reminder, we're doing the prospects of last year, not, of course, what happened over the course of their first NFL season. Now, the real question then, and I think this is a really interesting comparison, and Dustin, I'll start with you on this one. Carnell Tate or Emeka Egbuka?
Emeka. I mean, he's special. I'd go with Emeka on this one.
David.
I'm gonna choose opposite. Thinking of the prospect coming out of college and what we think they can be in the NFL, I think I go Carnell here. Emeka was a slot receiver. He obviously produced, but we're not looking at that. It's just more about coming into what he's going to look at. I think kind of for the reasons Dustin's answer was on the last question is he was overshadowed by Jeremiah and he had a little bit of injury things, but Emeka was too. But overall, I think Carnell's kind of in between where I would put Tet and Emeka in terms of wide receiver one and like what he can bring to the table. Because Emeka may also be kind of the same thing where he may never be a true wide receiver one like Carnell. Yeah. They're similar. Carnell's a little bit bigger, but they're both possession wide receivers and they're both kind of good moving out of the slot, but can go outside if they need to. So I think between the two, I would preferentially put Carnell ahead of Emeka.
I would slightly as well based on size. You know, when you look at the frame of Carnell Tate, I think when you're looking at a draft profile and the prospect itself, the size is probably a little bit more favorable, especially with the Browns being in the position that they are. I think that you've got a little bit of a higher ceiling there. And I think a fun exercise, and David, we've done this, is ranking, the recent drafted Ohio State receivers. It's difficult to do. It's nearly impossible. However, every single one of them, outside of Marv at this point, and Emeka, of course, have really produced, have been very good NFL receivers. So if that's any indication of what Carnell Tate will be, by all means, take him at 6. I'm happy with it. All right, moving on to the next position here. Let's go with tackle. This is really another huge area of need. And David, I'll start with you here. Francis Mauigoa or Monroe Freeling? Who are you going?
Yeah, and I knew that was probably going to be the comparison just because it's who we've talked about the most, who we hear about the most. And I think it's a very interesting decision because we know the strength of this draft in terms of offensive line is not really with tackle, it's more interior. And a lot of these guys kind of prospect out to be maybe more long-term interior linemen than tackles. But I mean, if we're talking about drafting them to play tackle, I still think I go with CC because I think he at least has established himself as a right tackle, and he is excellent in terms of just his strength and power and ability to run block already. I think Freeling is a prospect and he has a lot of room to grow, but I don't think he's as well-rounded as CC. And I think, the areas that he's lacking, and most people kind of look at it really being strength and just his explosiveness, and that can all be corrected. You get into an NFL weight room for a season and I think you're going to be fine. But I think just because he's already a ready-made player, and if we're looking to plug and play almost immediately on this offensive line that has been decimated, I'm going to go with CC.
Mm-hmm. That's what you think.
Yeah, I say his ceiling's high, right? I mean, he has a high ceiling there, but CC, I mean, to David's point, he's more well-rounded. He might be able to be a blue chip guy that you could insert. For me, it's kind of a toss-up, but I think I would lean CC maybe, but Freeling, he's also very capable, but CC just because of his well-roundedness and more of a guy that you could probably plug in quicker than probably Freeling.
I think I agree. And there's other guys that I like, and we'll talk about those here in a second. But I mean, if the NFL draft tomorrow and there were no trade backs or anything like that, and the Browns are selecting one of these guys at 6, personally, I think I'd be all in on Francis Mauigoa. I think he's a plug and play guy. Now, Monroe Freeling, while he does have a pretty high ceiling, he's also a very raw talent. It's going to take him some time. Now, I like Monroe Freeling at 15. So if you decide to trade back, I like him more in that range than I do at 6. 6 scares the absolute hell out of me for Monroe Freeling. But this is a really unique position to be in if you're the Cleveland Browns, because if you don't trade back, maybe the only option to get that player is to take him at 6, because there's going to be a huge run on tackles. I mean, David, we know the Lions are going to take a tackle. The Steelers are a sneaky team to take a tackle. There are, middle of this draft, first round, there are some teams that are going to take a tackle. So you might just have to suck it up and take them at 6. Go ahead.
I just a little bit of, just want your guys' opinion of this. With the Browns at 6 and who's available in this draft offensively, linemen, I think 6 is too high to take any kind of offensive lineman in this draft. It really bothers me, and what I mean by that is there isn't a Joe Thomas or a Myles Garrett once in a generational player in that top 5 or 6. I don't know. Maybe you guys are different, and I know it's an area of needs, but I just don't take a guy that high at that position. That's unless it was like a can't miss kind of guy, because I get a little of the Jedrick Wills weird feelings again, and I don't like it, and so
there's no way to know, right? There's no way to know, and if you have a huge area of need, we didn't know Joe Thomas was going to be a Hall of Famer at the time. I mean, we had a pretty good indication because he had a great.
But I mean, he was elite.
But even there are guys that NFL busts occur. Those are a thing that happen sometimes, and even guys that go to Iowa. You think they're going to come in and be the next guy. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. However, when you have a premier pick, when you have a top 10 pick, and you have a huge hole, huge area of need, whether you like it or not, you may have to take that player. Now, there's plenty of situations where you can trade back, maybe get that player. But if you have, like we've discussed, such a huge area of need at both receiver and tackle, if they stay put at 6, they are taking, in my guess would be that they're taking one of those, because we've talked about this. Tackles don't grow on trees. They really don't hit free agency very often. So it's not like you can just easily go get one. So your options are trade for one, trade beautiful draft capital to go get a tackle, an elite tackle that's going to be here for the next several years, or you draft that player. So I understand where you're like, I'm a little nervous about it. But this is a pretty tackle-heavy class. And if you're at a premium position, you have 2 first-round picks. One of those is more likely than not going to be a tackle. I mean, David, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, I know we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, just in terms of at 6, like, what do you do when all these people are available and you have these superstars like Caleb Downs who could be there, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and it's like, do you kind of avoid what your need is because of just the talent available, or do you target what your needs on your team are? And I agree with you. I think given that there are 2 very obviously glaringly offensive position needs, I think the odds that both of those players, both let's just go with Carnell and let's go with CC, the odds of both of them being gone by 6 is probably fairly low. And so one of them will be there. And if it's CC, who's right now maybe borderline top 10, I agree with you. I think and Carnell's not there, then I think you have to go with him. I think you do. Even if like Caleb's there, even if Reuben Bain is still available, even if there's other like positions, because right now, what has carried this team? It's been the defense. And I know that Myles is getting older and, we don't, people get hurt and things move, but at the end of the day, the defense is still the defense. The personnel are all still there. And the offense has been the thing holding this team back. And so you have to address that. And you have a top 10 pick.
I agree. With that, you mentioned this guy, so I want to kind of turn it over that, in the event that they do, let's say there's a run on tackles early and that pushes some of these guys down. Let's start with defensive end. If one of these guys is there, sure, let's have a conversation about it. So, Dustin, I'll start with you. David Bailey or Reuben Bain? Oh, wait, let's pause. I wanted to do something that I forgot to do. I want to take the tackle conversation and reflect it back to last year. My apologies.
Yep.
And I'll start with you, David, actually, on this one. Maui Noah or Will Campbell, the prospect last year?
Will Campbell. The prospect Will Campbell last year, I think. I am not going to think about the season in the second half and what happened and kind of where he ended up. I think just from a prospect standpoint, it was either him or it was, and maybe you're going to ask about him too, Kelvin Banks coming out. 1 and 2, very clear, very obvious, both top 10 prospects, like much, I think, different offensive tackle grouping, just a much stronger group from top to bottom, both in depth and just in talent at the top. And I mean, Will Campbell coming out of LSU was he was the bee's knees. He was like the next big thing. He was the NFL prospect. And so I think just based on prospect alone, and translation to the NFL, Will Campbell, I would take him over CC.
Yeah, Dustin.
I agree. And, what he brought to that New England team for stability with Drake May and those guys, I think that was a significant thing to help that team. So, yeah, if the true raw, I'd go with him for sure.
I mean, he was not good. He was not good. So I want to.
But the prospect, going in for the team needs,
yes.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that I agree. But I mean, Dustin, to that point specifically, last year we thought Will Campbell was the next Joe Thomas, and he just wasn't in his rookie year. So there's no way to know. There really isn't. Sometimes this just does not translate, but you have to take a shot. You have to take the opportunity when it's there. Personally, I think I agree. I would probably go Will Campbell coming out of LSU. I mean, he was in that conversation, right? So I think so, but I really like CC Maui Noah. I think he's going to be great. I just probably, if we were to rank these guys, I'd probably still have Will Campbell number one. All right, back to defensive end. And Dustin, I will start with you on this one. David Bailey or Ruben Bain?
Ruben Bain. Coming out of college. I liked him. I would go with him for sure.
Okay. You got any? All right,
No,
David.
I like him as a player, and that would, if he's available, but that gets me back to this whole thing with the Browns. It worries me about pick 6. Do you go down a route where if somebody is sitting there that's so good, no matter what the position, do you go reach for somebody you need and not take the best player available? So.
Okay, David.
I think this is really tough. Either guy would be such an incredible asset pairing on the other side of the line from Miles. Man, I think. Just based on the game against Ohio State last year, I want to say Ruben Bain because he was such a terror in the playoffs and when he did. But I think, as we learn about him more and just kind of see as we're getting into the draft what these guys are doing, I'm starting to lean more David Bailey just because of how fast he gets off the line and how quick he is. He's got incredible moves with power to back it up, and honestly, it reminds me a lot of. It'd be such a compliment, I think, to Miles on the other side. And he's a little bit more. I think he's going to play closer to the line, but he can just really. He's got a motor, and it just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And I think he's good in both pass and run, which is so important because you see guys come out who are really great in pass, but not in run, and then it really hurts. And teams can key on that, especially if you're trying to substitute. Whereas I think you can leave him on the field for all 4 downs, and he's gonna be able to produce. And so it's tight. I think all of these decisions are, but I think I give the edge to Bailey on this.
It's crazy how I've changed on this as well. I think the arm thing's a real thing. The little arms, the arm measurement, that's really going to scare some teams. And I think that he is a potential candidate to fall more than what we thought he would coming into this pre-combine. Pre-combine, it was, Ruben Bain going number 2 overall. That was a real conversation. Now, I think that's kind of died down a little bit. And me personally, 4 weeks ago, I was on here saying, hey, if he's there, he's a game wrecker. And I still think that. I still think he's going to be a very good NFL talent. I think right now I might have him just below David Bailey, who I think is also a game wrecker and just fits kind of the prototype of what you want in an edge rusher. So with that, David, would you rather have David Bailey or would you rather have Abdul Carter last year? That's a tough one, right? Or Ruben Bain, whichever direction you want to go, whoever your guy is. But in comparison here,
gosh, in terms of the prospect when they were coming in and kind of just what it looked like. He went number 3 overall. He was very, very well regarded. And coming out of the Big Ten, we know just overall Big Ten versus Big 12. There's a quality of football that I think is different, especially given the last couple seasons with the Big Ten winning 3 straight national championships. And I think combining just his experience with his who he played against, just bigger games all the time, bigger, I think, offensive lines that he's going against game in and game out. I think I'd give the slight edge to Abdul Carter on this one, just from really an experience standpoint. And I think his ability to drop in and play against NFL teams because of his experience in the Big Ten.
Dustin, what do you think?
I think I'm going to still stick with Baines over Abdul Carter because there was a lot of hype around Abdul Carter last year. Like, I mean, like a lot of hype.
A lot, yeah.
I mean, there was so much hype, and then I was like, oh, well, I didn't hear a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I was expecting for this guy to be a freak, but Baines, I think he had over 10 sacks last year for the Buckeyes. So, I mean, I don't know what he's going to do at the next level, but I don't know. I'm excited for Baines to see what he does. But Abdul Carter, I felt like, and you know how this happens with players, they get really hyped up or they get like Shedeur Sanders doesn't even get picked in the first, second round. Like there was so much hype around Abdul Carter. Like he might go like he's the greatest. Well, there was Lawrence Taylor type of conversation. I'm like, come on, what are we doing here? This guy hasn't even played it down. But yeah. Abdul Carter had so much hype last year. So yeah, I'm going to not take Abdul.
I agree with you, Dustin. I actually think I would have both of these guys above Abdul Carter. I didn't love Abdul Carter last year. I didn't. And I know there was a lot of conversation about taking him at 2. I mean, I remember Eric Metcalf saying on this podcast saying you have to putting him next to Miles or opposite Miles. That's just and my thought was no, I really like the idea of going offense, which they did not do with their first round pick. But still, we kind of saw what it looked like to add a beast in the interior of this defensive line and what that can do. But I mean, the offensive woes still existed. Now, from a draft prospect, I mean, probably a little bit of bias, unfortunately, leaking into my brain about how his first year went. But personally, I mean, I might have him just below these guys, or maybe in the middle. Maybe I've got him between Bain and David Bailey, but I don't know that I would put Abdul Carter up that high. All right, a couple of other positions, and now we're kind of getting out of positions of need, of course. We're just kind of getting to luxury positions, but I think it's still an interesting conversation to compare this year to last year. And let's go with let's go running back. I really think this is a one running back draft. It is. It's Jeremiah Love, and I think that there's a pretty big gap. But David, I'm actually going to compare him. Ask you this question of this or that, and it's his own teammate, Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price.
I was going to say who are we even considering right now to be running back 2 in this class? And I know a lot of people talk about it being him, and I mean I'm with you. I think this is a one running back class, and there's not much of a debate. It's Jeremiah Love. He is a generational talent, and he is going to elevate any team that he plays for almost immediately. Now, he did have a little bit of an injury problem, really 2 seasons in a row towards the end there, but even that. Being without that injury, I mean, you think about the playoff game last year against Indiana. There was a question whether he was going to play or not, and then he ripped off a 98-yard touchdown run in the first drive. And so he has that grit, that mentality to turn it on. He's a pass blocker. He catches it out of the back. To do it all, running back who will translate to the NFL very quickly and easily and have so much success. And I just think he is heads above even his running mate and teammate.
So let me ask this just to the collective group here. Do we all agree that this is a one running back draft? It's Jeremiah Love. Do we even need to make this comparison? Because I feel that it's kind of silly, right?
No, I think you're spot on. And I'm going to say this on this podcast. And it's kind of from what I'm hearing, and I'll just use the comparison to close to the same position where they may go, but the rumblings around the combine and stuff was Jeremiah Love's a much overall better talent than Ashton Jeanty was coming out of the draft last year, to David's point, where he's a more well-rounded, can catch the ball. He's kind of he can do it all. And he might even be better than Ashton Jeanty was coming out of the draft this year. And that was just from scouts and the buzz around the combine this year, that Jeremiah Love is the real deal. And if he goes high somewhere to Ashton Jeanty, that he'll outperform Ashton Jeanty in his first season. So, I mean, that says a lot, right? Because we know, again, Ashton Jeanty was really hyped, right? And then, he kind of came down to earth a little bit. But, I mean, if Jeremiah Love is the guy, then he to David's point, this is a once-in-a-generational kind of guy that could be something we could be talking about for years to come. And again, I mean, Browns take him. Not that they would, but man, if they did, you want to talk about a 2-headed monster at running back? Whew, I mean, that would be crazy.
I don't know. I don't love it. I don't love the idea of a running back going that high. But and I just want to kind of be honest. You know, we are, now that we're out of kind of the defensive line conversation, the tackle and wide receiver. Obviously, we know that these top players at some of these positions may not be available to the Browns. I just want to go through and kind of discuss in retrospect to kind of give you a viewpoint of where we're putting these players as you watch the NFL draft. So I don't really expect the Browns to take Jeremiah Love. That's not my point in doing this exercise. It's just, where do these guys rank? So I'm going to ask you that question, Dustin. I mean, are you taking Jeremiah Love or are you taking Ashton Jeanty?
Well, that's tough because I don't know. Jeremiah Love looks like I might have to give Jeremiah. Well, now that it's hindsight, it's 2020, and I know what.
Yeah. Just the prospects, as best as you can, kind of forget what the rookie season looked like. Let's just go draft prospect.
Yeah, based on the buzz coming out and what they've said about both players, I think you'd have to give the edge to Jeremiah Love a little bit, just because of all the well-rounded stuff that he's been able to do. And by the way, those same scouts are the same scouts that were there in 2025, right? They're the same guys looking at running backs versus running backs and saying like, wow, this kid looks like he's even better than Ashton Jeanty, right? I take some solace in that. Like those are real people analyzing real players, and their job is to be scouts, right? They're paid a lot of money to be scouts in the National Football League. So yeah, I'd go with Jeremiah Love.
I'm going to go Jeremiah Love here. I just think he does everything, and I think that's what makes him so special. I'm going to give him the nod. David, what do you think?
I'm with both of you. I'm going Jeremiah Love as well. I think they're fairly, in terms of like their what they bring to the table, they're fairly similar. But Jeremiah Love has better top end speed. He's just faster. I think he looks a little bit smoother with it. Obviously we know Ashton Jeanty was a brute and just you couldn't bring him down, but kind of stiff, kind of upright. Whereas Jeremiah Love, he hits all of the fundamentals as a running back and then just accelerates with all of them too. And I just think, it's a tight race, just like with all these other ones. But I'm gonna go with Jeremiah Love as a prospect here.
Mm-hmm. Let's go linebacker here. And this is an interesting conversation, David. I'll start with you. Now, I understand that both of these players, kind of fitting them into this linebacker category, maybe there's a conversation about what their actual position is. But for the sake of this conversation, we are going to compare them, and that is Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. Obviously, really difficult to do, but take a shot.
My goodness, Allie.
Yeah, and I think the downside for both of these is exactly what we talked about in terms of like where are they classified as position? Sonny Styles started as a safety and now came down and finally played linebacker. And I think I'm even with the explosive, incredible start that Arvell had to the season, and he was the eighth wonder of the world for a while there. I think more consistently across the board, Sonny Styles was a true linebacker who really just he did his job and did it perfectly. He did not miss a single tackle until the last game of the season, and that was the only tackle he missed all year. And for only having played that position for a year and a half, maybe he was outstanding, and he learned it so quickly. He can get off blocks. He can cover in the pass game. He has such quick lateral speed that he closes down with, you look and he's not there. You look to the side, you look back, and there he is in your face. And I think had Ohio State used Arvell differently throughout the season, like they did against Texas in the earlier games, I think maybe we'd be a little bit more higher in Arvell, even as an edge. But I think overall, as a linebacker prospect coming into the NFL, Sonny is like a true prototypical, like he is going to be a long-time NFL linebacker.
Yeah. Dustin, go ahead.
Yeah, that's probably the toughest one you've given us yet. I will tell you this. I've seen him up close. I've watched him. Arvell Reese, I think, is going to be a disruptor in this NFL league for years to come because he really can come in, be the defensive end, or he can be and slide back into the linebacker. He's 6'4". I'm 6'1". He towered over me. This guy I think is going to be a wrecker. Now, Sonny's got the speed, man, and we saw that on display at the Combine, right, when he just wowed people. But for me, I think I'd have to go Arvell Reese from a standpoint of overall player. I think this guy's going to be whoever gets him is going to get a wrecker in the National Football League.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sonny Styles here. I think and I'm not comparing the two players necessarily, right? Like head to head, that's not the purpose of this exercise. It's, just draft prospect at this particular position. And I understand, we're going to have a conversation about one's off-ball linebacker, one's more of an edge rusher. I understand, but I guess it depends on the scheme. So for the sake of this, I'm going Sonny Styles. I think that from a linebacker prototype, I don't know the last time we saw somebody like this who is – and I mean, we've got some pretty intimate experience looking at linebackers, right? I mean, we had to do a deep dive on Carson and JOK, and I mean, there's a huge conversation that we've had. I can't remember a time that you've looked at somebody the size and style of play of Sonny Styles. He is nasty, and I think he is one of the top players in this draft. And I'm removing my Ohio State bias. I think truly, no matter where he goes, scheme doesn't matter. Scheme out the window. He is going to be an impact player day one. So that begs the question, right? Well, who would you rather have when we're looking at prospect only? David, I'll start with you. Carson Swessinger or Sonny Styles?
Sonny Styles from prospect only. I mean, obviously we know what Carson did, but if we're talking about, we are sitting at the table watching the draft last April on Friday and wondering who's going at pick 33. I would pick Sonny. I know Sonny's not going to fall that far, obviously, but that's also the reason why I think Sonny was a better prospect coming out. Carson was a walk-on, and obviously he had an excellent career in college. It's just I didn't know a ton about him going into that draft and prior to the Browns taking him. And obviously I know more about Sonny just because we're familiar with him being Ohio State fans, but also Sonny has lived up to all the hype and he has all the chops to make it as an NFL linebacker. So I would go, even though we love Carson and we see what he did, I would say picking him head to head, I'd go Sonny as a prospect.
I would too. And that's really hard to say because obviously we saw the first year of Carson, what that looked like. I mean, he was defensive rookie of the year. I mean, it's hard to forget that. But when we are looking at just the physique, the style of play, everything surrounding the prospect, I think you're just naturally going to give the nod to Sonny Styles. However, I want to ask you guys this question. And this is something that could happen if the Browns do decide to go best player available, which they could if their guy isn't there or if they just don't like the value. I mean, could you imagine a defense with Sonny Styles and Carson Swessinger? I mean, that is filthy, right? I mean, because how many conversations have we had about imagine JOK and Carson together?
Well, yeah, and this is where I really, really hope the Browns don't reach in this draft. And if someone of someone's speed like Sonny is there, that is such a unique player. I mean, Carson Swessinger, they've talked about this. If you did a redraft, and we know now what we know about Carson, he's a first-round pick all day long. He's a first-rounder if we didn't, and he's so smart, right? I think that's a lot of things. I mean, that's the intelligence level of Carson, not only his skill set on the field, and he goes out there and drinks tiger blood and still plays. I'm just saying this kid, if you put him with Sonny Styles, like, oh my gosh, again, that's why I really hate when teams reach and get desperate because they're like, well, we really need an offensive tackle, so we got to take him. And you talk yourself into that. And then you watch a generational talent literally slip through your fingers and you watch him destroy teams for the next 10 years. And well, imagine if we have those two guys at linebacker, because and I'm not going to go off on a tangent here, but the Browns won 5 games last year. Okay. They should have won the Jets game. That was a special teams disaster, and they should have won the Titans game. Those 2 games were that's 7 wins the Browns minimal should have had with this atrocious offense. Now, you add a Sonny Styles to that, and you fix your offensive line, you're already a better football team with an easy schedule. You can win 9 or 10 games. Like, it's not crazy to think that with the schedule we have this year. So, yeah, like Sonny Styles with Swessinger, I mean, I feel bad for anybody that goes up against us because
it's nasty. It is. My thought with that is if you decided, if there's a trade down situation where maybe you leave 6 and you go to 10, and in doing so, you're able to get 10, keep 24, and maybe get another second this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty interesting because let's just say in that exact example, you're drafting Sonny Styles at 12 or whatever I said. At 24, you get, I don't know, best available tackle, whoever's there. Let's just say Caden factor is there. And then, I mean, in the second round, just in terms of receivers that you're looking at Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard. It's possible somebody like a Denzel Boston or Casey Concepcion's there because there's a run on tackles or something like that. I mean, that's not a crazy world to live in or to even speculate. So I know last year I was kind of adamant that I had no interest in like Abdul Carter, to put him opposite Miles. But this year, where you already have 2 first-round picks, and if you can accumulate assets for next year, it is very interesting to really bolster this defense and kind of just see what you have in Shedeur Sanders. I mean, that's a big thing here. So I think it's an interesting thing. I think I'm very high on both of these players. Listen, sign me up, right, for either of these guys. And we'll round out with this, and I think that this would just be a true luxury that maybe they trade back to even later, if they trade back into like 15 or something like that. This would be a true luxury. But if they decided to go corner, which I think is in the conversation, that's kind of a dark horse thing. And Dustin, I'll start with you on this one. And I think, in my opinion, there's a 1 corner class in terms of the first round. But Mansour Delane or Jamad McCoy?
Tell me the names again.
Mansour Delane or Jamad McCoy?
Maybe McCoy. I'd go with McCoy. Just because I haven't studied these corners too much.
Okay. So, I mean, in my opinion, this is a 1 corner class, and it's Mansour Delane by a wide margin. And I think that there is a possible, sneaky conversation here that if he's available, like the kind of in the same regard that we just talked about, right? If you look at this defense, with Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese, I mean, picture it with him. That's kind of an interesting thing. David, I mean, out of these 2, where are you going?
I'm with you. With Delane, he's the more well-rounded cornerback. He can do it all. I mean, he's obviously great in coverage. That's his primary role, but he's physical. He can play against the run. He can come up and make stops. Whereas McCoy, he hasn't shown that. He hasn't shown that he's a big body that comes up and isn't afraid to hit somebody. And at the end of the day, like, he's going to be great in coverage, so he's probably going to be, a very good, maybe role cornerback, more of a back end guy. But when you want someone who is good both in run and pass defense, I think Mansour Delane is the guy.
So if we just reflect back to last year, now obviously knowing what we know, David, I'll start with you. You taking Mansour Delane or are you taking Travis Hunter?
Man, that is Hunter is just it's such an interesting player and role to evaluate. And I think if I'm looking at drafting just a cornerback, and honestly, I was kind of all the hype and all of the excitement, sometimes it's just overdone and it makes me feel just a little unsure, a little uneasy, especially with a guy who's saying he wants to play both ways and will do it both ways, and certainly was a better defender than I think wide receiver. But I think Mansour Delane just top to bottom just fits the bill a little bit better, and I think I would lean or give the nod towards him. He's bigger, he's more physical. I just worry about Travis Hunter holding up against big wide receivers and big running backs off the edge if he's got to play run defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Just in terms of like the framing and the speed of a true physical outside corner, I'd be interested in Delane. I think he's the guy. But I mean, if you remember the hype last year, I mean, we had so many conversations regarding Travis Hunter. Obviously, we sat at number 2 for most of the offseason, so leading up to the draft. So I don't know. Part of me thinks that if we could turn back time and redo this, there's a conversation where I think that we would probably actually have Travis Hunter above, just based on what you can do on both sides.
I would agree, just because you can't have enough corners in the Browns, and stuff like that area needs. And to your point, David, there was a lot of hype around Travis Hunter, and everything that he could do. And how much was he going to play wide receiver? Was he going to go both ways? Could he be like this player? And you talk to some of these, and you'd look at some of these other NFL players, are like, he's not going to be able to do that in the NFL. Like, he's just not going to be able to do what he did in college. And, we kind of saw that. But, yeah, I agree to your point, Allie. I think for me it would have been Travis Hunter based on going into that draft, because
we were super high on him. We were all in, right?
Yeah, we were. Not only were we all in, he's a smart, intelligent player too, right? Like, that's the other thing that was so interesting about him. Like, how can a guy be so good and play both ways and be good at both at a high level? That's really hard to do, right? Like, that's just not usually a normal thing. And Travis Hunter, like, again, was one of those players that just he was an anomaly, so we were kind of enamored with him. Like, if the wide receiver room sucks, we can use him there. Well, we could always use a corner because you can't, like it was like you could talk yourself into that just based on what he was as a player.
Yeah. It's interesting when you take a look at the last year versus this year and actually comparing some of these players. I think that there's certainly more to do. We've run out of time, but we can probably continue some of this next week. Before we wrap up, I want to tell you about our friend Crystal John Tony. Guys, if you're looking to buy or sell real estate, invest, rent, whatever you're trying to do, give her a call at 216-215-6663 or at johntonysells@gmail.com. She's part of eXp Realty. She's one of the best in the business. She can certainly help you navigate the rough waters of buying and selling real estate. And before we wrap up, Dustin, tell our listeners about City Barbecue.
Man, if you're hungry and you don't want to cook and you want to go to one of the 6 Northeast Ohio locations, go check out City Barbecue. Or if you're down in Columbus or anywhere else in Ohio, go check them out. They're great for wedding events, catering, whatever you want, or pick it up on the way home. But it's really good barbecue. And their desserts are really good. Desserts are really good as well.
All right, guys, before we wrap, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Browns are going to do something. I think the Browns are going to trade for a wide receiver. So we won't have to worry about this next week when we talk about it. The Browns are going to go get a wide receiver somewhere.
I'd be interested in that. That'd be cool.
Oh, by the way, we didn't even talk about Joel Petonio. What's happening with Joel Petonio? That's so odd.
I don't know. Because I really don't have much to say. There's no movement, and it's weird. And I hope that we get an answer soon. That's really all I have on that. But with that, we thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Browns